As we move towards the second session of Atal FDP, fifth session of Atal FDP, I humbly invite Dr. Sharad Vakude, Professor Dipsa Dipsuru, to
Namaskar, madam.
kindly introduce our speaker, Dr. Madhu Chopra.
Good morning, all the
Good morning, sir.
respected dignitaries and all the delegates. Good morning. Good morning, Madhu ma'am.
Namaskar.
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 So it is my privilege to introduce Professor Madhu Chopra, presently professor and coordinator in the bioinformatics facility at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Center for Biomedical Research, University of Delhi. So as such, madam does not need an introduction. Such a vast experience and such a regular experts is coming for various seminars, conferences, internationally, nationally. But as a formality, what Saurav sir has requested me, so I just wanted to introduce her. She is doing active research in computer-assisted drug design and development using various computational methods such as pharmacophore modeling, 3D QSAR, virtual screening, along with computational design. Her team is working towards development of anti-cancer compounds considering GPCR, HDAC, and COX-2 as a molecular targets. So as such, Professor Madhugupta is also involved, and her group is also pursuing synthesis of medicinally important compounds. The group is also doing work on isolation of natural compounds having anti-cancer properties using cell-based in vitro and in vivo screening methods, nanoparticle-based drug delivery agents is another area where the group is working to give a target-specific pharmaceutical agents. Okay. She has also been awarded with Drug Discovery Hackathon Phase 1 Award, DDH 2020, an open source drug discovery hackathon against COVID-19 recently organized by Innovation Cell, Ministry of Education. And now she has been selected for Phase 2 for doing further research in area of drug discovery against SARS-CoV-2. So I give best wishes from the Dipsuru team to ma'am for this event. So, Madam Madhu has successfully guided more than 11 PhD students, 52 MSc student projects, and has been part of more than 35 summer training projects for the students. She has over 39 research publications in various national and international journals of reputes. So with this brief introduction, I hand over the session to the yes sir for the next process. Thank you. Welcome, madam, once again.
We request Professor Madhu Chopra, madam, to kindly share your thoughts on in silico drug discovery, drug engineering, and computational drug design with the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
First of all, I would like to thank Professor Sharad for such a nice introduction. And I would also like to thank the Professor Saurabh Daya for inviting me and giving me opportunity to share some of the work what we are doing at ACBR. Our center is called as ACBR in short. And it is my privilege and honor to address the gathering, which includes, I think, teachers all over the country. So thank you very much, Dr. Saurabh, for inviting me for this particular FDP, which is named as Atal FDP. So I'm sharing my screen. Let me share. So is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
And my voice is clear, so
Yeah,
just
it's very
wanted to
clear,
check.
ma'am.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, yeah, no issues.
What we are doing at ACBR is basically, I've been there since last 25, more than 25 years now. And we started as a journey as an organic chemist. I'm trained in chemistry. And then when we saw that there are so much use of computers while designing the drugs before we put real licenses, so we developed this area. And I will be presenting, more than presenting my work, I'll pay more emphasis on the basic technologies. That is what my talk is about, the computational drug designing technologies. And later on I will take few case studies from the lab. The computational drug design, before I go into that, let us see what is the drug design and development strategies. Uh, Whenever we talk about the drug design development process, it always start, if I say the modern drug design technology or process, will start always from identification of the, you can say, the disease itself. So we are talking about the discovery of the disease itself. And once we have that disease identified, and we need to identify the protein or the target responsible for causing that particular disease. And if I, in this process, we need to isolate that protein which is involved in the disease. And it may involve some certain, you can say, certain time periods also. And once you have that particular protein, we try as medicinal chemists to find the drug effective against that particular protein, which takes another 2 to 5 years. And then you take into the preclinical testing, all of you know, which takes another time period. Where before, when it comes passes the animal testing, you go into the formulation stage, which many of these you might have expertise in that formulations, and then scale up for manufacturing, etc. And then it is subjected for filing of for to the regulatory authorities before it comes to the human clinical trials, which takes the longest, one of the longest periods, which is 2 to 10 years. And finally it gets the approval, which again takes 2 to 3 years. You can say there is a lot of amount of time which is taken for a particular drug, even if we are starting from identification of disease, or if we know the disease, we know the protein, then also we have a lot of time involved in discovery of a drug. So on average, it takes 10 to 15 years when we say the drug will come into the market, and the cost is enormous. As per, this is a figure which was in 2015-16. Couldn't find a latest figure here. So it is approximately now $2 billion. You can think of one particular drug coming into the market and it costs so much. And where are the failures? Let's say where this all drug cost goes into. That goes into, well, because we start with the basic research of 10,000 to 30,000 substances which we are synthesizing, examining, screening, and only 10 to 20 substances which come into the preclinical testing, that is animal testing. So you can say a lot of loss here, a lot of money goes into the even the design, even the synthesis, even the examination or the screening. A lot of money is involved here. From these 10 to 20 substances in preclinical tests, only 5 to 10 enter in phase 1, and you can say few will be living in phase 1 only, and only one compound will be going as a drug. So this enormous amount of loss, which is in terms of the resources, the human resources, or the all other costs of the drug manufacturing, goes into this $2 billion, which involves a lot of cost. Now, let me talk about the latest technologies which are there in this particular process, and where the computational technologies are helping us to reduce the cost, to reduce the time also. So let us say the first is a target discovery. When I say the target discovery, I mean that how can we discover the protein involved in a particular disease. So that now we are using the help of the computational methods, which are genomics, proteomics, and all other omics techniques which you are well familiar with. So that is called as target discovery, and all these are now modern technologies. You may have modern bioinformatics playing a lot of role here, which has now speed up the process of target discovery. Once you have the target, you want to identify early compounds. The early compounds which are generated in the drug discovery process, they are called hits. So hit generation, maybe after the hit generation, you need to identify whether the particular compound which I have discovered through the in vitro screen is also good for the functional inhibition of that particular protein or enzyme. That is called the hit confirmation. From hit confirmation, you go into, if the activity is in micromolar range, you want to take it to nanomolar range. That is called the hit optimization. And once you have that certain hit compounds which are optimized for the in vitro activities, now it gives them confidence that it will be a delivering candidate or drug candidate, and you will then call it as a lead, and lead will be optimized for its ADME properties, for that is called the developmental candidates, for its potency, selectivity, efficacy, and of course the route of administration, safety window, etc. So before, when the lead, the developmental candidate passes all these in vivo tests, and that may involve animal plus some phase 1 trials also, that goes into the phase 2, 3, and the clinical development, and approved drugs is there. Now, where are the technologies where we can get help from? First of all, we can get help from at the discovery of the first hit generation, that is called as high throughput screening. There we try to screen 100,000 compounds a day as activity against a particular target. That involve a lot of robotics, and if we are performing assay in test tube, that is a single test tube the testing being done. But let's say if I am taking a 96 well plate, it is a little bit more throughput screening. If I take 384 well, it is more. And then if you are able to screen 100,000 compounds a day, then it is beyond manual intervention. Mostly the robotics take care of that particular screening, that is called high throughput screening. That really helps us in screening the compounds. But you need these many compounds also. You have to remember, when you are going into high throughput screening, you need these many compounds also. They have to be synthesized also. So alternative to high throughput screening is called virtual screening, and I'll show you some case study from the lab where we use the computer to predict the activity, and it is possible to screen up to 10 to power 12 compounds in a particular single run. That is the advantage of virtual screening. Then if we come from hit generation to hit optimization, initially you have identified certain compounds, and now you want to optimize its activity, improve upon its activity in vitro assays itself. You would be performing the combinatorial chemistry to rapidly produce vast number of compounds as soon as possible. That is another modern technologies, and you can design combinatorial chemistry using the molecular modeling techniques. So a lot of work will be there where hit optimization up to lead optimization, you can involve the molecular modeling. I'll show you some examples where you will be using computer graphics and models to improve the activity. And not only that, from lead optimization stage, where you are checking potency, selectivity, efficacy, you can even predict that using in vitro and in silico ADME models, where you can tissue and computer models, they are begin to replace the animal testing. So before putting the compounds to the animals, you are really predicting the ADME properties or the toxicities of the molecule or the intestinal absorption and whatnot you can do with the computers. So all these technologies have added up and speed up the process, reduce the cost, because you may not require those many thousands of compounds into the begin with. So now, when we are talking about the drug discovery, we always say we are searching needle in a haystack. And if we talk about the chemical space, it is whatever is available. How do I find drug of my interest or inhibitor of my interest? So an estimated 10 to the power 200 compounds could be made if we combine all the available resources on Earth. And even today, in chemical abstract substance registry, you have 28 million compounds registered, and drug companies, biologists screen sometimes up to 1 million compounds in high throughput, and you leave lot of compounds here, 27 millions you are leaving. So compounds against target, we can use ultra high throughput screening. Chemists will be selecting 50 to 100 compounds, and chemists will work on this compound, develop more potent, and pharmacologists will take and then improve the pharmacokinetic and toxicological profiles. And 1 2 compounds will be as potential drugs. So many examples are there in literature. You all are very familiar that through serendipity, by chance discovery, or through structure activity relationship, or from natural products, or using the rational design, which was the then latest technology in 80s. Then systematic screening was a screen or rational drug design taken into next step was in 90s. These are the most important drugs which were discovered in those days. So if we broadly categorize these drug design approaches, I call these drug design approaches rather than the computational design, because this will be a merge of the computational and all the rational designing strategies. Can be divided into the target based screening or the phenotypic screening, or we still have an area which is very open, very promising, modification of natural products. And for target-based screening, we always know that target is known. You will be performing the chemical library screen through high throughput screening or virtual screening. But still, till date, it is more artificial and hits compounds initially, which are more artificial in nature. This means what we are discovering in vitro test tubes or small well as screening, they may not be truly active in vivo systems. That we all know as a pharmacologist, as medical chemist, that many drugs fail from in vitro to in vivo systems. What in against this target based screening, which is more on the you can say the in vitro based screening. Earlier days was the phenotypic screening, where we call it as traditional methods of screening. Often the biological target was unknown, the molecular mechanism of action was unknown. But since these were based on the biological direct assay, for example, we used to treat the animals with particular disease and give those compounds, and we used to see whether the disease is being cured or not. So they were direct. They were not indirect assays that it is inhibiting the a particular protein. And but since we are not allowed to use animals at that space, so many of the compounds from target based screening will be put into phenotypic screening at one stage or other. And modification of natural compounds, why it is still more important? Because the chemical diversity which nature provides us is not equivalent to any effort in the medicinal chemistry or chemistry lab. You look at these stereocenters, even if in a single taxol molecule, those many stereocenters cannot be produced in the laboratory using any particular method of synthesis. Even we will be able to synthesize in 1 to 2 milligram or 1 to 2 gram, but when we need kilogram and tons of quantities of taxol, we are still dependent upon the trees. And other technologies are there, of course, now which are coming, cell based technologies. So what are the answers given by these technologies to us? This is a data in a decade, that how many compounds or drugs. So this is a particular strategy based drug discovery in a decade, which was in 1999 to 2008. I couldn't find the new data, which is telling that when I'm talking about first in class drug or a follower drug, for a good gathering like you, I think you understand the meaning of first in class drug. For example, penicillin, when it was discovered, was first in class drug. And you can say all penicillin next what were discovered, like amoxicillin or all other were called the follower drugs. So when we are discovering using the phenotypic based screening, we happen to discover more first in class drugs. And when we are having a target based screening approach, where most of my computational methods will be residing, I will be able to give the follower drug quite easily. So this data is from the really discovered drugs in which have come into the market in that decade. So let me talk about only two of these such successful drugs which were discovered through rationally design. One was imatinib, which was developed by rational drug design. A whole of the process what I have told you in the first few slides was followed for this particular drug. They first identified the disease causing mutation. So there was a disease which was leukemia. They identified there is a Philadelphia chromosome mutation which was hyperactive, receptor tyrosine kinase. So it was hyperactive in disease condition. So this protein was isolated. Then investigators screened chemical libraries to find drug which would inhibit this protein. Then using high throughput screening, they identified some hit compound which was phenylamminopyrimidine. If this is the drug, initially they only discovered this phenylamminopyrimidine. This is the pyrimidine and this is the phenylamino part. Only this part was discovered in initial hit compounds. This lead was then tested, modified by introduction of some methyl group here, and then benzamide group here. This benzamide group was produced here, which was increasing the binding properties, resulting in the imatinib. This the compound is Gleevec, is known as imatinib, and this received then their pharmacokinetic properties were improved by putting this group. So Gleevec received FDA approval in 2001. On the same time, it was called as a magic bullet because it was targeting a disease causing protein which was absent in the normal tissue. So they were saying we have discovered a drug which will go and kill only the that particular site where the cancer is growing, the tumor is growing. So but later on they found that once you give the targeted therapy, the resistance and mutations, they overpower the chemotherapy and whatnot happens. Similarly, there is another drug which is very briefly talked about. That is which was discovered Maraviroc, which was anti-HIV drug, and this drug was discovered by one observation. It is a very good observation which we observe even for tuberculosis patients, even for any infectious patient, even for SARS-CoV-2 also, that certain people respond well for infection and certain people die of the disease when the infection is there. For HIV patients also, we know that there are certain carriers which will carry HIV throughout their long life, and there will be certain people who have weak system, or there is some distinction between their receptor types and the people who are carrying the only the virus and disease is not implicated in them. So they compared the genomes of two types of the people, and they came across that there is a receptor which is CCR5 receptor. This had attracted considerable interest as therapeutic agents. What was the observation? That some individuals with a mutation in this particular receptor, CCR5 to 32 mutation, this was depleted in those patients. So they had absence in surface expressed CCR5. They had high degree of resistance to HIV infection and with no apparent significant adverse consequences. So this means if those patients who do not express CCR5 receptor on their immune cell, that is the CD4 cells where the HIV comes and attacks, they will be better resistant to the complications of HIV. They will be just carrier of the virus. So what they did, if we synthesize antagonists for this particular receptor and give it to those who are susceptible to HIV, the disease should be cured. That is how this particular compound Maraviroc was discovered through then again computational medicinal chemistry optimization, hit compound identification through high throughput screening and whatnot. This is an allosteric antagonist, which basically there is some conformation changes required when it binds the HIV binds to this particular receptor. So these are two well-known examples in literature where the whole process of drug discovery was used, and you can really address which is called as molecular mechanism based drug discovery. Now coming to the today's topic, computational drug design methods. There are broadly two types of method. One is called structure-based method. The other is called ligand-based method. Structure-based method doesn't mean that we are not considering the structure of the small molecules. It just simply says that when we have the protein structure or target structure with us, then what we will be doing, we will be performing certain type of screening assays like docking assays. Then I'll show you with few slides what is docking. De novo drug design, all will perform the receptor by drug molecular dynamics. We can perform pharmacophore modeling and then followed by screening. This is called structure based method because the target structure is known. If the target structure is not known, or even if it is known and I'm using the information only from existing inhibitors or ligands and design the molecule, this is called ligand based design. where we use the ligand structure information to design new inhibitors. This will involve QSAR and 3D QSAR, again pharmacophore modeling and virtual screening. I'll try to give you examples from these fields also. So virtual screening is nothing but it exploits the knowledge of target and or active ligand and or gene. So we may use target and ligand, target or ligand, use only target, use only ligand, or in fact we can start from the gene. From gene you transcribe and translate to the target protein, and then you can also have the protein of your interest. So it will always involve computational technique for a rapid assessment of large library of chemical structure in order to guide selection of likely drug candidates. And you will have several kinds of approaches like structure based. I showed you in the last slide. That is, for example, docking, ligand based, QSAR, or sometimes similarity based search, which you can perform using open resources, pharmacophore based search, or there are some, I wanted to keep this slide because there are now new methods which are coming as, which are called as chemical biology, system biology kind of approach. We are using knowledge of all the receptor bound structures and then trying to extract out, if I inhibit those particular set of receptors, how the disease will be cured. So docking, coming to the first methodology, that is the docking, which is basically what we are trying to see, the interaction of small molecule inhibitor within the binding site. And if I create for this particular, these structures you can create on any visualization softwares. You can download the PDB protein inhibitor complex onto on your computer, use Rasmol, Pymol, many free softwares are there. You can create this kind of picture and you try to fit this molecule, and when once this molecule fits here through docking process, you can create the molecular surface, which the surface, these colors are showing the hydrophobic, hydrophilic, and the hydrogen, you can say electron rich and electron deficient regions in the protein, and how inside the protein the molecule is fitting. So when I am predicting the binding of this particular molecule inside this cavity of the protein, which is shown here, this process is called docking. So docking, given two molecules in 3D conformation, we need it in atomic details. We want to study, do these molecules bind to each other? If yes, if they are binding, what does this molecule complex look like? And the goal is we want to reproduce the experimental pose of the ligand in the binding site. Then we also want to predict how strong is the binding affinity, that is called the scoring problem, which can be used for drug discovery. The docking steps, basically in docking 3D structure of receptor ligand complexes are made and their stabilities are assessed. Stability assessment means that we can calculate the energy of the, let's say there are the protein plus ligand, and what is formed is a protein ligand complex. Then we can see this, how the energy of protein ligand complex is varying with respect to the starting, that is the receptor and ligand, and this energy should be lower than the complex energy should be lower than the sum total of the receptor and ligand complex, that is called the binding energy. It works on the assumption that geometric shape of the molecule fits into the cavity of the protein. So there has to be geometric complementarity as well as some interaction complementarity between the small ligand and the protein. The fit between the small molecule and binding pocket is then used to evaluate the affinity of small molecule for the respective target. So there are many kinds of docking method. One is called rigid docking. Rigid docking is basically used for fast virtual screening methods where the protein and ligand both are considered as the rigid structures. Docking will find match between the characteristic features of two molecules in 3D. And one of the software which is known as DOCK itself is one of the widely used software for docking. So you'll use receptor, which is rigid. You will use the ligand also, you'll try to fit. But this always sometimes create problems, because we know from biological perspective there are many examples where there can be induced fit. Induced fit means there may be a conformation change in the ligand, there may be a conformation change in the receptor, and the two things will fit to each other. This is called the induced fit. So you will be using the flexible ligand receptor binding, where either you will make the ligand flexible or you can also make the receptor flexible. So you change the conformation of the ligand according to receptor cavity, or you change the conformation of the receptor itself to fit the ligand. So how do we pick up these structures? There you make use of molecular dynamics, which I will not be able to cover today. It's a topic altogether. So where we study the conformation of the protein bound to the ligand with various conformations, and then we study all possible low energy conformation and pick one conformation of our interest based on the results, or maybe the control compound, or what we want in the end. So always all docking programs will have two components. One will be how do I place my ligand into the docking site. So first part of any docking technique is a method or the algorithm. How do I place my ligand into various poses in binding pocket? Each placement could be completely random or independent. And some of the algorithm, for example, there are dock or flexex are the name of the softwares which use heuristic based on chemistry or geometry of the atoms. Or sometimes Autodoc, which is freely available for academic users. What it uses is a standard optimization technique, such as this is simulated annealing is one of the molecular dynamics method, or there is another algorithm which is called a genetic algorithm. Autodoc uses both of them. I have option to use either of them. Or sometimes many softwares will be explicitly using the molecular dynamic simulations. So one of the algorithm you will be using for placing the ligand inside the receptor binding site. And once the ligand is placed inside the binding site, fitting well into the binding site, you will be calculating the affinity of that particular ligand, which is called the scoring. So you require a scoring function also. So scoring function provides a way to rank the placement of ligands related to one another. So if I am docking a series of compounds, I want to know which one is fitting best. Ideally, the score should correspond directly to the binding affinity. I'm sorry for this mistake. Affinity of the ligand for the protein, so that the best scoring ligand are the best binders. So the next is basically another drug design approach, which is called as the de novo drug design. De novo drug design also can be you can say divided into structure based de novo or ligand based. So this means when I am considering structure of the target, receptor 3D structure is known, I need to have knowledge of interaction site of the ligand. This can come from docking, or this can come from the protein data bank and available structures. So ligand based de novo drug design, when receptor 3D structure is not known, then you will try to use only the ligand structure and generate a pseudo receptor for and based on the similarity search. So here again the methods can be atom based. They are de novo one. It means we are starting from scratch. From one atom you go to a molecule, or from a one fragment you go to a molecule. Here you need a seed atom, and high number of genetic structure with questionable chemical accessibilities are designed. Here if I use a fragment, a seed fragment is required. Lower number of genetic structures with good chemical accessibility, they can be produced. So coming into one of the methods, it's you don't go into the detail of this method. So initially you need some starting population of fragments, which is sometimes called as population of parents. From initial population you will be operating some genetic operator. These are some algorithms. So you will produce population of children. Then we need to select from there through scoring function. We combine the population of parents and children, and then we select from there for new population of generation, and the process is repeated till a desired compound is of interest is made. This is one of the simplest software, which is Ludi. Earlier it was there. So I can explain the basic principle of de novo drug design from here. Let's say I have a receptor binding site like this, and from the receptor binding site, we identify certain interaction sites. For example, there is some amino acid which is protruding inside the binding site. There is a carbonyl group which is there. There are some hydrophobic ligands somewhere. here, and I know there are some interacting sites. So what the software will help us, these de novo drug design softwares will help us, that they will be putting the fragments which can interact with the interacting sites. For example, this pyrrole can interact with this carbonyl here. The hydrophobic patch can be filled with something like phenyl, or this NH, and this space is filled with the oxygen, which is complementarity. If this is the hydrogen bond donor, this will be hydrogen bond acceptor. So these fragment libraries are available with the softwares. So we analyze and we screen for fragments. This is called fragment fitting. Once the fragments are fitted, then the molecule is built up inside the binding site. This is like, how do I join in this pyrrole to this phenyl and this phenyl to this cyclohexanone moiety? Probably through this rigid double bond or a flexible CH2CH2. We need to see, so need to bridge. Even the software helps in bridging. And these days the methods are such that you will be designing the compounds de novo way, which are feasible for synthesis also. So many of the softwares are available which for which this de novo drug design ultimately leads to synthesizable and for this the initial compounds which we want to synthesize should be available, whether they are available for from certain you can say vendors or not. Only those fragments are selected, only those sites are selected, and altogether a new molecule is produced. That is called the de novo drug design. Coming to another method, excuse me, which is called as quantitative structure activity relationship. We all know the earlier methods of structure activity relationship, that when we have a lead compound, then we used to modify one or other group on the lead compound and then try to see whether the activity is improving or not. Then the methods came which were called as QSAR, where you take set of compounds, not only a single lead compound, but a set of compounds with their known activity data. You try to correlate the activity data with molecular descriptors of the compound. There are so many molecular descriptors, and try to build up a mathematical relationship as simple as this equation, which is y is equal to fx. So this is a linear equation. So where we are trying to say that if I calculate some molecular descriptor for a particular molecule, activity is linearly related with the variation of that particular molecular descriptor. This is a simplest QSAR equation. So this QSAR equation, once it is developed, it is used for interpretation and prediction of activities of unknown compounds. Now, based on certain set of experimental data can be biological activity, it can be solubility, it can be toxicity, it can be permeability. We try to correlate this data with some structural descriptors, and structural descriptors are numerous. I'll tell you in next few slides. And the model building is not now only linear equation. There can be partial least square method, support vector machine, neural networks, or k-mean. These are now modern methods. I'm just naming this method. I am not going into details of these methods, but now the traditional linear equations of QSAR, which are multiple linear regression or simple regression, they have been replaced by these machine learning methods, which are listed here. What we used to do once the model is built up, what we used to see how the experimental IC50s are related to the predicted IC50. Well, if they are fitting well, the R square or the correlation will be very near to 1. So this will be a line of slope of 1. So we say my model is good. So if I have some now unknown activity, it can predict the unknown compounds. It can predict the activities of unknown compounds. So in QSAR, you can use many descriptors. There can be 1D descriptors. 1D descriptors may be a log P or solubility criterion of a compound can be a very simple 1D descriptor. Molecular weight, molecular volume, number of hydrogen bond donors, or number of hydrogen bond acceptors. These are all called 1D descriptors. You have molecular fingerprints. You can say the simple key as how do I represent this structure linearly, that is called a fingerprint. That can be a molecular descriptor. Or you can have 2D descriptors which are called topological descriptors. There are many methods to solve these descriptors. And you have pharmacophore based descriptors which are 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional descriptors. You can have a geometrical 3D shape of the molecule as descriptor. Even quantum chemical descriptors, electrostatic fields as descriptors. So your X, what I showed you in QSR, nowadays they have been replaced by 3D descriptors, 2D descriptors, or the other whatnot. There are thousands of descriptors which can calculate. They are freely available softwares also where these descriptors can be calculated, and there are freely available software where you can build your QSR models. So we don't have to spend too much to learn these and to use these softwares. So for example, if I talk about 3D descriptors, one of the technique which is called a grid from one software, COMFA is from some other company, comparative molecular field analysis, and grid I think Schrodinger provides a grid type of software. So what you do is you take the receptor binding site, you take the molecule, you put it inside the grid, and you take some probe atom, which is sp3 hybridized carbon with positive charge, calculates its interaction with each point on this grid inside this particular grid what we have set for the molecule. And then we do some principal component analysis. Again, it cannot be covered in one lecture here. What is PCA, what is PLS? I'm just giving you overview of that. These are the methods available. One has to learn each and every method in quite a detail. So once we calculate these interaction fields, we get some fields or figures like this, which are called let's say if this is the molecule which was very active, then it has some blue areas which is representing that these favorable electronegative regions in the molecule are here, and red regions are unfavorable electronegative regions, or there can be some hydrophobic favorable and unfavorable regions. So this kind of analysis helps us to optimize the compound from, let's say, hit initiation or to hit conformation, or hit conformation to lead optimization, where to put which group. That kind of analysis helps me. If I am modifying this particular compound, I know these are unfavorable areas, I should not put any electronegative atom here. Or this is unfavorable steric region, which is yellow, I should not be putting any steric group. Only steric group which can be accommodated is only in the green area. So this COMFA analysis, which is a 3D QSR technique, also helps us to identify the or optimize the compounds. Coming to the pharmacophore, again, this is another method which is used for 3D QSR kind of analysis. What is a pharmacophore? Which is basically assembly of steric and electrostatic or electronic features, which is necessary. We think that inside the binding pocket, you have certain hydrophobic amino acids, you have certain hydrogen bond donors, hydrogen bond acceptors, some crowded regions in binding site, some electron deficient regions in binding site. So a complementary group should be present in my small molecule also. I want to identify those complementary electronic features, or the, let's say, the steric and electronic features in the molecule. If I create now an assembly of these features, which are called now chemical features, this is called a pharmacophore. So pharmacophore does not represent a real molecule, but it is telling me in a molecule there should be some groups present here, which will be interacting with the binding site. So to identify pharmacophore, let's say this is a molecule, I need to identify where are the hydrophobic groups, where are the hydrogen bond acceptors, where is the aromatic ring present in that molecule, where is the hydrogen bond acceptor or donor. If there is a big molecule also, we try to find out all the chemical functionalities in that particular group. So what is atom acceptor? Just for sake of students, acceptor is when it accepts the hydrogen bonds, that is called hydrogen bond acceptor. Mostly it is in the form of nitrogen, oxygen, and sometimes sulfur. But amide nitrogen does not accept. Okay, aniline, nitrogen, and sulfonyl and nitro. So there are many acceptor groups. There are many donor groups. So NH here is a donor group, H, which will participate in the form of hydrogen bonding. Acceptor will be this carbonyl. Similarly here, this will act as acceptor, and aromatic ring will be as hydrophobic center. This will act as acceptor, donor, except the NH2 now here, which is not bound to a carbonyl, will act as acceptor as well as donor. And here also you can have acceptor donor combination, acceptor donor combination. So pharmacophore, basically now this is a true pharmacophore developed on computational using computational methods, which is representing 3D arrangement of chemical features in a molecule that may be essential for important binding interaction with the receptor. Now this particular pharmacophore, why we are interested in, because once we model this pharmacophore, it can be used as a query in 3D database search to identify new structural classes of potential lead compounds. Now, what software we used at that time was the Catalyst, which is one of the leading software for pharmacophore development. And just coming to some of the examples with this small introduction of various methods. As Dr. Sharad also introduced, that we are working in computational design and development of lead compounds. Various targets we have included. Now these targets have increased also with more number of students joining in the lab. So we started with cholecystokinin, developed for COX2, STEC, CDK, and many more kinases have been added now. So we are also studying detailed molecular mechanism of action of these compounds, which we are developing in the lab. We try to find the hit or lead compounds from nature. It's also because there is no comparison which we can pose to the nature, and the chemical diversity obtained from nature is enormous. We also work on targeted delivery of anti-cancer compound. So there are the when I showed you drug discovery process, several students are working at several stages of my in my lab, and few are now PhD and few are the current best students. So what is the strategy we are adopting in the lab? What we do is, first of all, whenever we are designing some research thing, you have to design it. Like you need to see what is the disease you are talking about, what is the target you are talking about. If I'm talking about the drug design, so you first of all you have to have a detailed research design. You build up the pharmacophore. For example, we do in our lab, we take the either we take the ligand or we take the receptor structure. Both strategies can be followed, the receptor based or the ligand based. So we build up the pharmacophore. We try to do virtual screening for producing the initial hits. Then we try to procure or synthesize these compounds and perform their in vitro screening using some assay which is available in the market, or we can develop the assay in the laboratory itself. And since my major area is cancer, then once this is in vitro screening assay, the compounds are passed, then we determine its anti-proliferative activity. And if the activity is good for both the assays, one is that it is inhibiting its its target, also it is anti-proliferative or anti-cancer in nature. And if activity is promising, it's okay. If activity is not promising, then we optimize the activity of compounds by chemical modification. This gives us the lead compounds. These lead compounds we take into the determination of efficacy pharmacokinetics. We try to study through which mechanism it is giving the anti-cancer property, and we also try to determine the in vivo anti-cancer activity. For determining the detailed mechanism of action, which is now essential process in the drug discovery, that it should not have a off-target effect. We used to see the apoptotic pathways this particular drug is following, what is the effect of lead compound into the cell cycle regulation. Then we also study on some cellular based expression of key factors which are involved in key regulatory pathways. So with this, let me take one case study from the lab for histone deacetylase inhibitors, as I named as HDEX. Just a brief introduction of HDEX. HDEX have very important role in cancer, and there are several subtypes of HDEX. Some are inhibiting the apoptosis, some are inhibiting the differentiation. Both these processes are important in cancer. If there is overexpression here, the apoptosis is inhibited, so that leads to uncontrolled proliferation of cells. And so we not need to produce the inhibitor for these targets. Similarly, there is some HDEX which is involved in migration. This is there when the cells undergo migration, they are now beyond the tumor, the tumor becomes cancer. It is also involved in angiogenesis, or there are certain HDEX which are involved in resistance to chemotherapy, and of course proliferation also. So the rationale for designing that we wanted to develop some HDAC inhibitors which are specific to subtypes. So you can see there are at least 10-12 types of HDACs which I showed you, but at least there are 18 subtypes of HDACs, and we want to be more specific because we don't want to inhibit all the HDACs which are available. They are useful also for the cells, and we also want to develop some cost-effective methods from which the compounds can be produced, which have wide therapeutic index, which have improved bioavailability. And the method used in this particular process, we use the pharmacophore modeling followed by ADME filter and docking. So we had to develop the pharmacophore for virtual screening, produce some hits, and through docking identify some lead. So the story started with the literature available, ligand based we started. Different research groups have already developed the HDAC inhibitors. So we picked up from the literature some set of training set. So some compounds were listed. They were divided into training set and test set. This training set will be utilized for HDAC pharmacophore development, and test set will be used for prediction of the model what is made. So these compounds, 43 compounds, were picked up from carefully screening, and we included the active compounds as well as inactive compounds because the software requires, because ultimately it has to predict the activity of unknown. So it should be able to distinguish between the active and inactive. So my model should be trained such that the training set while training also includes the active and inactive, very essential thing. So activities were then whatever was available in literature, we have to have a normalization process. If the activities are given in KI, they are converted into IC50 or all over the wherever, because different research groups might be producing their activity from different perspectives. So we convert the IC50 into nanomolar. But one more thing which we take into consideration very carefully, that these functional or the in vitro assays which are performed by different research groups should be similar. For example, a certain group is identifying a HDAC inhibitor using in vitro enzyme binding assay, and another group is showing that I am using an indirect assay of HDAC activity prediction, which is not enzyme binding assay, but I am looking at some downstream event of HDAC and then looking at whether the downstream event is inhibited or not. These two are different assays. I cannot take training set from two different assays. So at least the training set should be of similar assay. That is the essential requirement here. They should not be representing from different assays. They should be similar. If they are not same, they should be similar. Then we need to take care of the activity range. If I am including highly active compound which have IC50 around 0.02 nanomolar, so you can say sub nanomolar, and then we need to include certain compounds which are 10 micromolar, activity with 10 micromolar. So if you look at the log unit difference, it is 6 to 7 fold log unit. At minimum of 4 log unit difference should be there from active to inactive. Then only the software will be able to predict the activity. Then activity classification, you should have, we just divide for our ease, that from 0 to 40 nanomolar, some certain compounds if I picked up, they should be highly active and designated as plus plus plus. Some IC50 greater than 40 nanomolar up to 400 nanomolar, they were termed as moderately active plus plus, and greater than 400 nanomolar, so we restricted ourselves to 0.4 micromolar or 400 nanomolar. These compounds were termed as plus, as inactive compounds. So these are the set of compounds, 21 set of compounds. No need not to look into the structure of this compound, just to tell you that this compound, you can say compound number 1, or you take any other compound of a similar type, let's say this compound number 12. You can see the structurally these compounds seem to be very similar. They were discovered using one particular assay, but this compound has very high activity and this compound has moderately activity. And then if you see this particular compound, it also has a similar type of structure. It's not a biphenyl, but yes, of course, a similar type of structure. This is completely inactive compound. So if I say in terms of hydrophobic feature, hydrogen bond acceptor, hydrogen bond donor, etc., they are present in all these compounds, whether they are inactive or active compound. But what is the difference between the active and inactive compound we want to deduce? So we put this compound, we take the compound, generate the conformations. Activity data is already known. Activity data is spanning 4 order of magnitude. We have at least 6 to 7 order. We then identify what are the hydrogen bond acceptor, donor, and all other features, and put it into the software development for pharmacophore development. So pharmacophore will identify those chemical features which are present in active compounds but are absent in inactive compounds. And then once it identifies the feature, it will optimize through molecular dynamics, simulated annealing, or certain more scoring will be performed. Certain more steps will be there, which will be computational steps for optimization, etc. Once this pharmacophore is generated, the top 10 pharmacophores are picked up. We need to validate the model also through the test set, through the regression analysis, through Fisher validation, etc. The result comes in the form of the some parameters which are called as cost parameters. What I would like you to pay attention is to the correlation cost. So this particular model says it's a correlation of 0.96. Near it is 1 is better. So if it is 1, it would have been 1. I'll say my pharmacophore model was 100% good in prediction of activity, but with a score of 0.96, I am confident that in 96% it is good in prediction of activity. So what are the chemical features identified for this pharmacophore? Were 3 hydrogen bond acceptors and 1 hydrophobic aromatic ring present in the molecule for a molecule to be active. So these are some of the costs. Need not to go into too much detail. When we develop the pharmacophore, we have to take care of many costs. That there are certain null cost, zero cost hypothesis, fixed cost, and then there has to be some difference which is very greater between the zero cost hypothesis and the best hypothesis. So just forget about this. What this pharmacophore will be used for? This pharmacophore will give me something numerically which is called as fit value. How well my molecules are fitting into the chemical features which I have identified, and it will numerically transform it. That is why it has a prediction capability, because it is now giving me mathematical description of fitting the chemical features into the pharmacophore. So fit value of, let's say, a very highly active compound. This is the active compound. Let's say it is 0.02 nanomolar active. You can see its fit value is around 12. So it is fitting very well into all the chemical features. You go into the other extreme, you can see here, and this is 5. Let's say 50 micromolar, its fit value is also very low, 7.1. So it must be fitting into some chemical features, and it must be missing some chemical features, which I will show in next slide if I made this slide. Now for actual activity versus the pharmacophore predicted activity, there has to be a correlation. That is what is a correlation 0.96, which is called the regression analysis. So all as actually active molecules were predicted active molecules. You can see here plus plus plus, because the actual activity and the predicted activity are very close. They are just similar to each other. That is why we divided into 0 to 40 micromolar. So all actual activities between 0 to 40 micromolar were predicted between 0 to 40 micromolar only. Nanomolar. And then from 40 nanomolar to 400 nanomolar, moderately active compounds were predicted as moderately active. You can say inactive compounds were predicted as inactive with one outlier, but that was also predicted as moderately active. So then you have to do the validation. Validation is performed by, there are many computational methods. One is the randomization of data, which is performed by many scientists. That is called the Fisher randomization, where the activity data is totally randomized. More spreadsheets are generated. Here we generated 19 spreadsheets from 19. So first pharmacophore gave me 10 models. So each spreadsheet will give me 10 into 19 into 10, 190 more models. So none of the cost of these 190 models should be then near to the model which I have picked up. So that is randomization. When I randomize the data, my cost has increased, my correlation has decreased. So I'm confident that my hypothesis or the pharmacophore which is generated is not a chance correlation. It is actually experimental data what I have provided. The model has been developed using this. Now, qualitative, let's try to understand what was the difference between the active, moderately active, and less active compound. So, and what is the fit value? So, as I showed you, compound number 1 had a fit value of around 12. So, this means this hydrogen bond, this hydrophobic ring is just falling onto the benzene ring of this molecule, and then you can see this oxygen is just on the hydrogen bond acceptor here. There is a carbonyl group here, and there is an oxygen group here. All are well fitting into the chemical features which were identified by the pharmacophore. So this highly active compound has 3 hydrogen bond acceptor, 1 hydrophobic aromatic group. What is there? So you can see the structure here. This is compound number 1. This ring is fitting into the hydrophobic aromatic. This oxygen is fitting into hydrogen bond acceptor. This carbonyl oxygen and this OH oxygen is also acting as hydrogen bond acceptor. What is difference there with moderately active compound? So you can see the moderately active compound has a similar structure here, CO, NHOH, and this part of the structure is very similar. Then the developers or medicinal chemists, what they did, instead of one carbonyl, they introduced 2 carbonyls, thinking that these 2 carbonyls will add into the activity, but the activity of this compound reduced. But as a medicinal chemist and chemistry background, I can tell you these 2 carbonyls cannot reside on one side energetically, and that is what pharmacophore has identified also, that energetically it is not feasible to keep this carbonyl also into that side, and it cannot produce a hydrogen bond acceptor feature and fit into the hydrogen bond acceptor. So moderately active compound is missing one hydrogen bond acceptor. You can see this is the conformation of the molecule changes, and there is no feature which can fit into this hydrogen bond acceptor feed, and then its fit value is also lower. And for this compound, you can see it is lacking many features. So it is the length of the molecule is not complete, so that the hydrophobic aromatic feature fits into here. Even though there were 2 hydrophobic aromatic features, but the length of the molecule is incomplete, and it only is able to fit into 2 hydrogen bond acceptor feature. It is missing one of the hydrogen bond acceptor feature also. So this means there has to be correctly placed geometrical chemical features in order to build a molecule, not only mere presence of hydrogen bond acceptor. It has to be a geometrically best placed hydrogen bond acceptor donor, or whatever features we are identifying from the pharmacophore. So this is again going into further. We can also produce subtype specific pharmacophores. If you see, when we use a training set of SDEC6 inhibitors, we produce altogether a different pharmacophore, and this pharmacophore was produced using SDEC1 specific inhibitors. So this is giving 3 hydrogen bond acceptors, and this pharmacophore gave me 2 hydrophobic features, 1 hydrogen bond acceptor and 1 hydrogen bond donor feature. So this is altogether a different, and the structure of the molecule also is little bit different in 2 subtypes. So pharmacophore is also able to identify chemical features present in subtype specific SDECs. So what next? Next, what we did was, as the aim was to develop new compounds, so we took these compounds. Let me just, there is a screen. I want to hide this video panel. Okay, and hide this floating meeting. Okay, now it's okay. So what we utilized was the drug-like subset of compounds, which was zinc database. And zinc database, you can say, is available freely. You can download, and you can build up the database here on this on your computer. It requires quite a lot of computations. It has millions of compounds. So we have several subsets. We made several subsets. Each subset contained approximately 25,000 compounds. And at that time, when we did this zinc database screening, 650 such subsets were screened. So you can say how many compounds we screened: 650 into 25,000. We use some software which is called as Discovery Studio, and there is a protocol which is called as Screen Database Protocol, which was used. Now, the screening was totally dependent upon the fit value on the pharmacophore, and it estimated the activity. So once you have those hit compounds from this, which this software will give, we need to then reduce the number. Initially it will give thousands of compounds. We put some filters like secondary screening filters like ADME. Like I want only compounds with good ADME properties. Like ADME are basically the absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion and toxicity. So I can put the filters using the computational properties with favorable ADME properties. Then we were left with 400 best fit compounds. These compounds were looked for the structural diversity analysis, common substructure. Ultimately, 55 hit compounds were left. They were then subjected into docking of onto HDAC surfaces or the binding site. Then the further will be procurement. I will show you how did we proceed further in vitro screening and lead specification. So this particular assay gave us some compounds. This is for HDAC 6. These are the zinc hit compounds which were produced, and these are some training set compounds which were interacting with the binding site in the same mode as it was interacting into the other compound. So this is just list that we could produce several zinc database compounds with very good predicted activity as well as high fit values. Though there were not compounds with a fit value of greater than 10, but we had appreciable. So we selected only compounds with a high fit value and high predicted activity of moderately to active compounds. Same then these compounds were then put into the docking. So docking also gave us the docking score. This docking score and the fit values, they were comparatively compared, and then we saw whether they are following the still the best fit compounds are also giving the best C Docker energy or not. That what we did next. And then this is the docking score of the zinc compound. Similarly, it was produced. And finally, what we did was from some hit compounds, we also wanted to have the QSAR type of analysis. So we produced the COMPA model from these training set compounds. This COMPA model gave us the confidence that we once we modify these lead compounds, we can get the idea where to modify the compounds and which are the spaces where hydrogen bond acceptor or donor should be improved or where the hydrophobic structure should be put. So this gives these kind of features as I showed you in the introduction also 3D QSR. So there are certain regions which are identified where we should not put the hydrogen bond, hydrophobic portions which are yellow regions, and hydrophobic regions when we modify in the green regions will be beneficial. Similarly, the electron rich and electron deficient regions around the molecules were also you can say identified, and you can see the docking scores were also correlated to have the very highest correlation between the docking scores. And finally, some selected compounds were put into the molecular dynamics simulation to assess the stability of the complexes. And what we got ultimately was you can say the what we proposed in the paper, that what should be featured in a molecule in order that you want to develop HDAC6 specific inhibitor. So this was proposed that you need at this corner an electron donor group, and this particular compound or the structure, DCH2CH2, it participates in non-polar interaction. So this is a combination of docking as well as the pharmacophore and the COMPA studies. And this steric bulky, the green areas were identified using the COMPA analysis. These blue areas were identified through the docking analysis. So this we proposed that how do we modify this compound, and was given to the you can say two readers of this paper. Next, what we did, we also performed virtual screening on drug bank molecules. You can say we wanted to use from the existing drugs, can some drug be repurposed for HDAC inhibition? So the drug bank molecule was comprising of 10,000 molecules. We again screened for HDAC6 pharmacophore only, which left us with around 3,200 compounds. The fit values greater than 6 were picked up because 6 was a fit value with one of the control, which is a very good HDAC inhibitor of roxilinostat. This left us with the 616 compounds. They were then docked with the binding side within the binding side of HDAC. Then we perform the ADME and TOPCAT analysis. This is the toxicity analysis and this is ADME analysis. Then we picked up some compounds on the basis of disease, target, high C-Docker interaction energy. And there is another feature in the binding site. There is an catalytic zinc. And with the compounds which are interacting with the zinc are of our interest. So finally, we selected 9 compounds, ordered those compounds. And you can see these are already approved drugs. Some of these are already approved drugs. Some are investigational drugs. And what we are finding now, they can be SDEC inhibitors also. Some of these are used in cardiovascular disease, some are used in leukemia, some are anti-cancer compound. There is one compound which is anti-hypertensive, there is one which is antiviral also. So these compounds were then subjected to SDEC6 inhibition assay, and we found that several of these compounds are also inhibiting at a very low concentration, 10 nanomolar concentration as DEX6. And finally, these compounds were taken to anti-proliferative action on the cell lines, which are HeLa and SIHA cell lines through MTT assay. We found that these compounds are inhibiting the growth of the cells at, say, for example, compound number 1, which seems to be very promising. It has IC50 of 4 micromolar and 3 micromolar on both the cell lines. These are cervical cancer cell lines. And similarly, compound number 3. And both the compounds are active in nanomolar concentration, as far as the SDEC6 inhibition activity is also there. Finally, these compounds have been taken further to further study the mechanism of their action. If they are showing the SDEC6 inhibition, whether it is a selective SDEC inhibition, that we are looking through Western blot analysis. Similarly, we are also looking into some cellular markers like tubulin and with increasing dose to identify whether it is particularly going through SDEC6 inhibition or not. With this, I would like to just show you few more examples. Do I have time? Should I continue for how many minutes? I should continue?
Yes, ma'am. We have 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. So quickly, I'll go through one more case study from the lab, where again we selected a training set, again built up the pharmacophore model, and this pharmacophore model was also identified to look into whether the best hypothesis of pharmacophore is able to identify the actives or inactives. And then we synthesized certain compounds based on some natural lead compounds, and then saw how this pharmacophore is behaving with my synthetic compounds. And these synthetic compounds were then subjected to the in vitro screening. In vitro screening was done, the docking was done, in vitro binding assays were performed, the ADME properties were predicted, and finally some compounds were shown in vivo cellular systems that they are going inside the cell, going toward their particular targets, because this particular assay was performed using secondary antibodies. So this gave us in confidence that initially what we are starting from, either we are starting from synthesis of new compounds, or we are going through the virtual screening, the pharmacophore model is behaving very correctly. So these are some estimated and actual activities of the cholecystokinin BR antagonist. You can see some compounds were identified in nanomolar 0.2 nanomolar, 2 nanomolar affinity, and one of the compound which was having IC50 of 2 nanomolar was actually good anti-cancer compound also. In fact, 2 series of compounds were synthesized, and we got 2 compounds from each series with good anti-proliferative activity. And this is another COX-2 inhibitor story. Again, the pharmacophore was developed. This pharmacophore was again used in the similar strategy. We identified the hit compounds, procured the hit compounds, and then we identified this compound, which is NCI21, which was found to be having very good activity against COX-2 target. And you can see the structure of this NCI21 is such similar with diclofenac, which is a non-specific COX-2 inhibitor. And this was identified through pharmacophore based search. This is existing compound, you know this, or this is a analgesic and anti-inflammatory compound. And this is the screening result of this compound. You can see this compound was inhibiting with a very low IC50 and with a promising compound. With this, I'll just finish my talk. This is another docking based strategy here we used, not the pharmacophore based. but we identified CDK inhibitor, and we showed that how it is behaving in the as anti-cancer or as apoptotic agent. What are the cellular processes it is inhibiting, and through what is its mechanism through various cell-based assays. With this, I would like to acknowledge first of all my students who have done tremendous amount of work what I have presented today, right from Saroj Kumari to whatever work I have presented today is from Monica Sharma, Saroj, Joita and Manisha, some work of Nalini. I have not presented few work of Lubna, that is altogether a very different story. And of course the collaborators, Dr. Anil Mishra from INMAS, Dr. Daman Saruja from ACBR. Dr. Aruna Chikara, we are working with some nanoparticle based, which I have not presented today. And of course, some of the work from present batch, Priya's work, Aztec story we are continuing, and some more students who are continuing in the lab, Sumit, Prakash and Vinita. Of course, none of the work would have been possible in absence of funds. So funding from DST, DVT, ICMR, DRDO, DU, UGC SAP and DST PERS is acknowledged here. And I would like to lastly thank all of you for patient hearing.
Thanks, Professor Chopra, for your insightful talk on in silico drug design, taking us right through drug discovery pathway, hit, lead, and then drug steps, then docking, and including docking-based virtual screening, then your own work on case studies involving HDAC and HDAC inhibitors, and also making us aware about de novo drug design softwares. So, madam, you have actually excited us to work with you and work on the in silico drug design in future. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I request Professor Sharad Wakode to kindly take up the queries with Professor Madhu Chopra ji.
Thank you, Daya sir. Thank you, madam, for giving a wonderful talk. एक बहुत ही अच्छा, well illustrated, giving the actual studies which you have carried out, that insight you have given from your lab itself. So that has given us a very good input for the fellow delegates also, as well as our research scholars, that how we can proceed with the things. So there are certain questions from the chat box, mainly Miss Sneha is asking for, can you please share name of some free softwares for pharmacophore identification?
I think I remember one as Ligand Scout. Otherwise, if you just go and Google it, I think you will be finding some pharmacophore. There are not many, but there is one I know for sure, which is Ligand Scout.
Okay. Miss Sabiha Imran, ma'am is asking, is dry lab in silico identification of a lead compound as a drug sufficient, or it should be validated by wet lab?
See, any particular discovery, if it has application for a society, is appreciated. All of you know. So we don't want to just in silico design and keep in the thesis, and the thesis is there in the library shut for years together.
Yeah.
So whatever we are discovering, designing should be validated so that it goes into further trials. That is our effort in our department. So we might be slowly progressing towards, but we are taking our story to the drug development, not only the designing. So we first design it, take it to in vitro, in vivo. Now several, you can say 2 or 3 compounds from the lab are in preclinical, and we are now coming into the pharmacokinetic and dynamics. So it should be taken further and it should be validated.
Yeah. So there are again a few requests from Mr. Himanshu, Mr. Jebastin, that can you give us the name of free softwares for docking as well as admit properties they are asking.
Admin properties, several softwares are there. If I'm doing screening from the PubChem substances, the PubChem substances itself already have their log key and certain parameters already calculated. And on Zinc database also, I think they have included some now parameters for admin. And there is one software which I used very exclusively, that was from Imtech. They developed some drug-like tool karke, and that was sufficient to calculate certain parameters. Basically, what we call as drug-like tool as the molecular weight calculation, the log P calculation, and the number of adenine bond donors, acceptors. These are some Lipinski's rule of 5, which we calculate for the drug-like compound. And then there are certain parameters like its absorption, intestinal absorption, the blood-brain barrier, whether it is able to clear or not. It should not if we are not targeting to blood-brain. All these parameters are calculated from the freeware, which is drug-like tool from Imtech. It must be there on their website now. And mostly we are using paid software here, but there are certain one thing I would request all of you, that even if you find some free software on online using Google search or anywhere, just try to find out the literature published using that software. So that gives me how many people have used that software already in their publication. So gives me confidence. Yes, of course, I can also use it. So not all the tools developed by all of them are, one, the tool should be published. Second, it should be used by others. Their papers should be published. So we can just see whether this is a validated tool or not. That is the thing.
One more, there are so many comments from
Yes,
so many
please go
delegates
ahead.
for
We have
the
time.
excellent talk, highly elaborative, informative talk. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Tarabi,
I think
CB,
someone was
Dr. CB.
asking for the docking also. Let me just search. I had a slide. I think now my slide is not shared. I'll just open
You
one.
can share it.
I'll just see if I'm able to quickly find out. I should be able to. There was a slide which I made for free docking softwares.
Because there are so many new
Yes.
teachers who have joined this program, and even PCI syllabus is now reformulated, and they have included most of this computer aided drug designing CAT syllabus in most of the branches, not only for the MPharm pharmaceutical chemistry, for pharmaceutics person, ecology persons, they also need to study this thing. So there are so many faculty members from that background also, those who want at least some websites or YouTube channels where they can get some preliminary idea, so that they can develop their can say knowledge or upgrade their knowledge, so that the higher things they can learn. Schrodinger और बाकी सारी जो सॉफ्टवेयर्स बाकी आते हैं वो तो थोड़ा सा हायर लेवल पे हो जाता है, या पेड भी होता है, तो एटलीस्ट
Autodoc of course is one free docking software. I was just going for one slide. If I am it's difficult on our computers, teachers के computer पे slides वापस से ढूंढना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है. You always make different lectures for different purposes, and then you and but Autodoc is one. आप डाउनलोड करिए. We have used Autodoc for other purposes also. And I wanted to see if there are other softwares, but Autodoc is for sure, it is there. Autodoc आप यूज कर सकते हैं.
या आपके पास बाद में भी आपको पता चलता है तो आप सौरभ सर से शेयर कर सकते हैं चीजें.
शेयर कर दूंगी बिल्कुल.
You can share it into the group so that it can be better helpful. Especially कुछ YouTube sites या कोई वेबसाइट बहुत अच्छी जो प्रिलिमिनरी लेवल से स्टार्ट कर सकते QSR ड्रग डिजाइनिंग, तो पीजी स्टूडेंट्स या अभी यूजी में भी कुछ पार्ट्स आ चुका है, and the people like us from the older batches, जहाँ हमें
Yes,
सिर्फ theoretically थोड़ा बहुत
I found
syllabus में
that
था.
slide, तो मैं जरा शेयर
Yeah,
करती हूँ आपसे. उस पे
thank you.
कुछ डॉकिंग सॉफ्टवेयर्स का कुछ मैंने बताया है. This is the share. I think you are able to see my docking programs. So this gives a broad idea of like what are these are gold standard, you can say, docking program जो बहुत अच्छे से publish होते हैं. ठीक है, these
Yeah,
are not
yeah,
something. So this is doc, you can say. This is developed by UCSF. So educational institute जितने भी software develop करते हैं, they are freely available. And one
generally.
I forgot to tell you, one I have not listed here, from IIT Delhi, Professor B. Jayaram's group. If you visit their website, they have provision. I don't know whether they have a tool, like you submit your compounds, you submit your
They will,
target, they will
yeah,
give you some. So there is a doc which is I've shown that what is their algorithm. You can take screenshot of here. I have no objection. यहाँ screenshot recording तो यहाँ हो ही रही है. तो shape and flexibility, and this is the link. There you can have this software from Gold. You can say it is also available, developed by Sheffield University, but it is distributed by CCDC. You can say Flexus, it is paid software. Written for some, it is paid software. Fred, again, OpenAI Scientific, it is free. Teaching license is free. And then Autodoc, free license. Fit is from Discovery Studio, it is paid. And Schrodinger, that is also paid. I'm not listed. I wanted to show you the free software. So this slide, you can take the screenshot, and there's a list also.
good one. Thank you, madam. आपने काफी मेहनत करके स्लाइड ढूंढ के भी निकाल के डेलीगेट्स के लिए प्रोवाइड कर दिया.
Teaching slides, we have a course also
Yeah, yeah.
ACDR, so वहाँ पर हम बच्चों को
Even
ये software use
हमारे
करना
जो मैडम Preeti Jain recently joined university. She was PhD from the BITS Pilani. She also mentioned that Fred regarding it's working very nicely. She had mentioned in her comment.
Okay.
And there was one to comment like what you recommend, free or paid, difference in terms of algorithms or robustness using free software.
No difference in terms of algorithms. They are all very well validated, but paid software have so many features, flexibilities to combine with so many other analysis. So if we don't have money, we go with these. But nowadays, some paid softwares, these are some of the expensive softwares, like Discovery Studio. But Flexis is now being given by a company which is called Zestra Scientific, ZASTRA. That is not very expensive now. And once we go maybe 1 to 2 lakhs for docking software, and teaching licenses are also, a lot of teaching licenses are also provided. Then there is a software from Preset. They are not very expensive. This Discovery Studio Biovia is expensive. Schrodinger and Discovery Studio, two companies they sell, because most of the pharmaceutical companies, they use these softwares, and whatever is sold in pharmaceutical companies are always expensive. But Discovery Studio academic license we purchased around 7-8 lakhs with all features, but they said you cannot produce your publications from them. You can only use it for teaching. So that is the only teaching license. So they are then we have to purchase one of their license. So they gave us 21 teaching licenses. From these 21 teaching licenses, I teach students, like all MSc students, all PhD students. But when we have to give it in publication, we can't give a recommendation that Discovery Studio teaching license will be used. That is inexpensive. So you can use any paid depending upon your ease of using. You try to understand two, three softwares, whatever is you are feeling good with your hands, with your application, you use that.
Same.
all of them will provide their training material. All websites
Yeah,
be available रहेंगे, tutorials be available रहेंगे. Nothing. We learned our software ourselves. Nothing. Even initially when we purchase them, they provide some training 1 or 2 days, but rest of the time you will be following their tutorials. So almost all softwares will give you the tutorials also.
yeah. But one delegate was asking same thing, that by providing our molecules, जो novelty वाले molecules हैं, हम उनको देने के बाद free software में कोई plagiarism का problems या ऐसे
So
कुछ चीज, या वो
these
लोग
are
अपना idea
these whatever I
in the
put shown here are the downloadable softwares. We are not providing them. The what when I said providing your molecules, it was on the IIT Delhi website. But there also you have MOUs signed that the things will not be disclosed, and you need your data back. That can be done writing on their server. I think by this time the IIT Delhi is also trying to provide you as a standalone tool, but I don't know how far they have gone in that direction. They have many
Yeah.
tools.
Dr. Sunitha is asking, excellent talk, ma'am. Are you doing any permeability studies in vitro and in vivo models for your screen molecules? Can you share the same?
See, I told you we are planning now for preclinical thing, and we are looking. So again, I have requested even Dr. Saurabh also, if some facilities there in DIPSAR where we can perform our preclinical studies, we'd like to send our compounds there and get it done. So developing a facility in the lab is really very difficult. Even though we have animal model in ACBR, but till now we are not using it. We need expertise for that. We are collaborating with INMAS also. So some of the toxicological studies will be done there, and some of the PKPD studies we are aiming now. And I've contacted few companies also, if something can be done on payment basis. So we are trying that. Till now we have not developed something in our lab.
Okay. Miss Shresha Sunkara is asking, can you please give free software for scaffold hopping?
Scaffold hopping, I don't remember. Let me ask this one student of mine. I asked him to join. I'll just see if he's there. Prakash, are you there? So I'll let you know, Saurabh, if I find
Yes, ma'am.
something,
Yeah.
a few of the answers. I don't remember any free software. So I'll let you know through email. So just
Sure.
remind me on this, that these are the questions from the participants. I'll find out from my students if they found some. So I'll give the reference or the link for that particular thing also.
Sure, ma'am. And also, ma'am, on behalf of our participants, I would like to request you that they are very eager to have the knowledge of resources, or maybe if you can share some of the presentations from where they can learn later on too.
So that is what I told you. Whatever
Yeah, yeah.
software you download, and then your tutorial is based on that software, and it is very much available on almost every software. No software is published without linkage. So whatever I've shown you here, they come with their tutorials. It's not difficult to use. In fact, any freeware, now a lot of YouTube videos are there. I have not uploaded there. I'm trying to develop some course, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Definitely, you
really
should try
difficult.
with your such a vast
So
experience. You should develop some MOOC courses
we
or
are trying.
Swayam
Maybe in
portal. Yeah,
coming months you
that
will
is very much
have
needed.
something of that kind also. We are trying to develop some short
Yeah,
courses,
Mr.
1 day
Prakash has
and
already
short modules.
posted a message in the group for this
Uh,
software.
okay,
Prakash has
I can
replied.
read
I
out.
think he
Okay,
could not
Prakash has replied.
unmute himself. That is why
Okay,
he has
okay.
put it. Thank you,
So
Mr.
he
This is
Prakash,
can
and
read.
thank
Scaffold
you, madam.
Hunter and Data Warrior.
Okay,
Yeah,
He has shared that the two softwares are Scaffold Hunter and Data Warrior.
data warrior.
yes, yes. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Otherwise,
ma'am. And in this digital era, we are unable to exchange our souvenirs and our honors to you in physical mode. So,
Absolutely fine. Sorry, baat nahi.
so we shall be having a digital certificate in your honor.
Arre wow.
Harsh, can we see the certificate here?
Oh,
So,
thank you
ma'am, we
so
shall
much.
be.
tell.
Welcome, ma'am. We shall be delivering to you in physical mode once everything is normal.
Okay, okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for having your time with us and
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this insightful session.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
We'll be
Professor
again.
Sharad. Hope to meet you sometime very soon at Dipsar.
Yes, yes.
I really want
Definitely,
to
ma'am.
Definitely.
visit there.
We would
Yeah,
love
yeah.
to do that, ma'am. We
Yes.
shall invite you and
Yeah.
also we shall
We
have
need
some guest talk or
to go for
those kind
some
of things here.
collaborative work also.
And
Come for
collaborative
any
work too.
collaborative
Yeah,
work. Kelly, I just wanted to see the facilities there. I wanted to
Yes,
see
Saurav
what
sir
we
is
can
already
collaborate.
collaborating with
Sure,
you.
ma'am. Sure.
I
There.
think Saurabh had some association with me,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I really want to see how he has developed his thing. Since
Sure, ma'am,
last
sure.
1 year, we are not able to meet actually.
We
So-
shall
Yes,
invite you,
done.
ma'am. Definitely, we shall do that.
Here we
Sure.
conclude.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
so much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you all the delegates for patience listening. I hope you will take advantage of ma'am's guidance in development of your CAD lab, the design lab, which is very necessary nowadays to keep ourselves updated. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Here we conclude the 2 sessions for day 2. We shall proceed towards the session 6 after a lunch break. Everyone is requested to kindly join back at 2:15 p.m. The sessions shall begin sharply at 2:30 p.m.
Thank you all.
Thank you.